Hey YouTube, today we'll be looking at Procreate Dreams, the new animation app from the Procreate team. So before we jump into all the new features, we'll first take a look back at the features we had in Procreate originally, for those who aren't aware. So in regular Procreate, we can zoom in by panning with 2 fingers. We can undo by clicking with 2 fingers, redo with 3 fingers. We can go full screen with 4 fingers, and that would be it for Procreate. When we move on to Procreate Dreams new controls, we can control the timeline by using 3 fingers. If we go left and right, we'll control the horizontal size of the timeline and get to see more frames, more information. You can also control the height of the timeline by going up and down with 3 fingers. We can zoom in the same way as with the stage by panning with 2 fingers. We can click play. So when we're zoomed in already, it will only show what the timeline is displaying, but we can quick pinch out and show the whole timeline. And now we'll see the full animation play. We can also go into full screen when the animation is playing, and then we can go right back out. If we were zoomed in and we wanted to start at the beginning of our animation, we can move the playhead. This is the playhead in pink, and we could just throw it to the front and it will automatically play. Now, if we wanted to zoom into a specific track so we can see a frame, we can double tap, and depending on how zoomed out you are, you can do it multiple times to keep getting more information. When you start seeing the number of seconds and the exact frame number, that means you're fully zoomed in, and you can select frame by frame. You can also still drag. Now, let's get into the UI of Procreate Dreams. So you can store animations both on your iPad and in iCloud Drive. In iCloud Drive, your animations will automatically save. You can click the plus to create a new animation. Here you'll be met with a bunch of different aspect ratios that you can choose to create your animation. I'm going to choose widescreen. From here we can click the 3 dots to set how long we want our duration. I'll set mine to 1 second for now, and you can either create draw, and it will start you off with a track, which is basically an animation layer automatically, or you can click empty and it will start you off with nothing on the timeline. So I'll hit draw. Now that I've hit draw, we can go into draw and paint mode, which is this squiggly line on the right. And when we click it, we'll see the outside of our canvas. The outside of our canvas is everything outside of the gray line. Outside of draw and paint mode, we don't see outside of our canvas unless we've drawn there. So we can zoom in and we can start drawing. Now I have 1 frame that's created for the duration of how long the track was made, which was 1 second when we started this animation. You can double tap to zoom all the way in, and only when you're when you're zoomed all the way in can you create frames from this view. So I've left this frame for 2 keyframes. Now I want to make my next drawing, but we first need to put on our onion skin, which we can do by clicking the time and clicking show onion skin. And that will show me my previous drawing. I can select how many previous drawings I want to see by clicking edit onion skin and moving the frames along. Since we're 3 frames ahead of my previous drawing, it will only show when I have it set to show 3 frames ahead. I can also edit how much how transparent the previous frame is, and I can edit the color. You can also do this for all your forward keyframes. So now I'll make my next keyframe. I'll just draw another circle. We can also use all the tools on the top here, which are the blending tool, which will blend with your drawings. You can erase. And you also have layers where you can draw on top of the layer under. The only issue with this is that it seems you can't drag your layers on top or below each other. They're in whatever order you originally create them in. You can also use the eyedropper to select a color by holding and dragging on a color. You can also do this for the colors that are left by your onion skin. Now, if we didn't want this big timeline on the bottom, we can just go with our pencil and drag this gray part down so we can see our flipbook, where we can just go and do animations frame by frame. This always works with 1 frame at a time, so we need to click plus to create a new frame, and then we can draw. And this would be our new frame. Here's our previous frame. I'm gonna change my onion skin so it's more visible which one we're currently working with. Now, if we wanted to go several frames ahead, we could also do that. However, we would have no frames in between. So we'd have to add something in between, or we would have to connect them by going to the timeline view. So I'm going to show you how to do that. We can hit done to get out of flipbook view. We can also just hit X to get out of flipbook view. Now, in timeline editing mode, from any mode you can edit frames. Different modes have a different approach, however. So you can drag the frame to each other so they now meet. And now when you play, they're all together. You can also drag them at the end away from each other, and now we have a missing frame. Now, if we wanted to make all the frames edit alongside each other, we would first select here, and we do the push and pull motion where we add another finger while we're holding this line that represents the edge of a frame, and we can drag it. Sometimes it doesn't work too well. There we go. So we can drag it to the left or right. The right will make it last for a longer amount of frames. The left will make it last for less frames. You can also edit multiple frames and do the same motion by going to the timeline editor. If you want to select multiple frames, you can just draw over them with a line. Let's say you had several tracks. You could go to the timeline editor and circle them, and then you can edit multiple frames. But for now, let's just edit on this. If we wanted to do the push and pull, it would be the same. We'd select by the end of our frame, and then we'd put another finger and drag. And now this will make multiple frames become longer. Now, if we were to go back to the theater, which shows all of our animations that are saved, our iCloud animations will start automatically uploading. Procreate Dreams also creates a folder in your iCloud app for all of its files. I recommend storing your audio and whatever files, maybe even Procreate files that you plan to work in Procreate Dreams with in this folder. Now we can go back to Procreate Dreams, and when we'll open, you'll notice that we can still undo things that we had done previously when we had opened Procreate Dreams. This is because we have an undo history that lasts even when we're outside of the document. You can edit this by clicking on the title of your animation, and then you will see all the preferences for your specific animation. So you can go to Help, Preferences. This is where you can change your undo steps. The more you have, it will drastically impact the file size of your animation. It's naturally at 50. I've put it to 100. Dynamic brush scaling will make your brush change its size relevant to how much you're zoomed in to the timeline. Then there are some other important things you can go through here. Your playback mode, this will loop your animation. This one shot will play it once. And there's ping pong to bounce it back and forth. This onion skin options, and then this is the file setup of your current animation. When you get out of drawn paint mode, and you're also not in the timeline editor mode, so nothing should be pink on your timeline, you can scale and rotate all of your drawings. So it will give you this box where if you click on the pink parts, you can rotate from that point. You can scale from that point, my apologies. If you click on the pink, like actually tap on it, you can then rotate if you click the gray and move it around. You can also click on the 3 dots to flip your drawing horizontal or flip it vertically. You can also edit the anchor. The anchor basically is where it will rotate or scale from. So now it's scaling relative to the anchor point that's right here. Or you can also rotate along the anchor as well. I'm going to bring you into an animation I've already made so we can get more insight on how tracks work. Tracks would be basically animation layers once again. So when I go to this previous animation, I've just created a simple ball bouncing. We can hide everything on a layer by going to track options and clicking hide all. We can see everything by clicking show all. We can also duplicate our track, copy it. If we copy it, it will paste a new track on a different track layer. If we cut, it will paste on the same track layer. And if we duplicate, it duplicates on a new track layer. We can also label our tracks with colors. So this drawing is now labeled with green. We can copy individual content, which would be the frames. And it has the same options up here. We can name every drawing. We can change the blend mode, and we can mask. So if you want to import something from Procreate itself, not Procreate Dreams, you can do it in a few different ways. So one, you can just drag a file directly from Procreate and drop it into Procreate Dreams stage. when you drop it onto the stage, it will import and it will all be on one track. From here, if we were to look in my Procreate file, we can see that the layer setup is in groups which have individual layers in them. I can separate my animation and show all these groups if I click on the timeline and click convert layers to tracks. First, I'll make this a little bit shorter so it fits into my animation. And then I'll click convert layers to tracks. And then it will create a group. I can go down and look at all the layers I created originally in Procreate. Right now, I very much recommend this due to the fact that Procreate Dream's drawing capabilities are very stunted due to the fact that there's no lasso tool, there's no quick line, and just it's a lesser drawing experience in general. Now, if I wanted to go back, I can also show you guys how to keyframe. Keyframe is basically automating your animation to move on its own. So you can do this by clicking on the playhead, not on the track, click on the playhead and click move. And then you can select any of these. We can also import our Procreate files so it animates the layers in order. So if you actually select the layers and put them on the timeline, it will select each layer individually. And it will put them on the timeline as an animation. Of course, this isn't how I want to import it, but I'll show a trick. So all of my stuff are currently outside of the canvas, so if I wanted them to be inside of the canvas, I can create a track, a content group on this track, select everything and then hold and click group, and then I can go into the scaling mode and move everything down to the timeline. And now everything in that group is moved down. But we're going to go with the original version of importing. I'm going to scale it down so it's on my canvas properly. And now I'm going to show you how to keyframe. So keyframing is basically automating your animation. So here we can automate it by clicking filters. And first we're going to use blur. We can use gauge and blur to blur our frame at first, and then we can later make it clear and look like the original drawing. Now, if we play it, we'll see that it goes from being blurry to being the original drawing. And this is all done without destroying your original drawing as well. So we're going to take this off and we're going to instead do a move and scale keyframe. I'm going to move my character to the right. And make them smaller, scale them down. And you can see that when we play it, that's exactly what happens automatically. Now we mainly moved our character along a horizontal line which would be the X coordinate. So we can click into set easing, and now we can change the speed that automated animation happens at. So try the different easings that they have in here, and you'll be able to find out how to use them in a more effective manner. If we go back, we can add any of these other keyframing techniques. So we can add rotating to the mix, and it will the rotation of our character will happen at the same time we're moving the character to the right. Now I've removed all of our previous keyframes, so we can enter the performance mode. Performance mode is entered when you click the recording button on the right on the timeline. So with performance mode, we can use our pencil, and once we move our character around, it will follow all those movements and create keyframes for us automatically. So if we look, when we play it back, our character will be moving with all the movements we made. We can also add extra performance after our initial performance to the same keys, just like we did with rotate. To add text, just click the add button and go to text, and you can create a text layer. It will pop up wherever you added it to. To import a video or photo, also just click add and go to the relevant thing. For photos, go to photos. For files, go to files. Once again, you can go to the Procreate Dreams folder that's created in your iCloud. If you want to import audio, which is one of the most important things when it comes to the cloud import, you can just find a file, click on it, it will import. And once it's imported, you can feel free to scrub the audio on the timeline and you'll be able to hear it play back. For some personal tips, you can also create camera movement. If you go into the file that's provided in the application named Into the Future, you can see that the animator who created this did this by grouping all parts of his scene together. If you look in the background, you can see that not everything is in the actual frame of the shot, and that's because he's dragging everything in a move and scale keyframe to create camera movement. So when you actually play the video, you can kind of feel a rumble as the characters walk. And this is seen in all the scenes throughout this animation. If you play it in full screen, you get a full example of how it is. If you plan to color a line animation, I recommend that you duplicate your line layer. Also use a very fillable brush, one that's easy to fill. Then use the color drop function to just fill in the lines, and you'll have your animation colored in no time. That's about it for this tutorial. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you again. You can check out some of my other animations on my channel, and I'll put something here to fade it up.